your mind isn't broken. It isn't weak. It isn't failing you. In fact, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that's the part most people never stop to question, because questioning it feels uncomfortable. If you believe your decisions are logical, if you think you're self-aware enough to stay in control, if you're confident that you are the one making your choices, psychology already proved you wrong. And once you truly understand how this works, you won't be able to unsee it no matter how much you want to go back to believing otherwise. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that most of your thoughts weren't consciously chosen, that the confidence you feel when you defend an opinion is often just a story your brain tells you after it already decided, that the reasons you argue for so passionately might not be reasons at all, but explanations designed to protect your sense of identity. Free will sounds comforting, doesn't it? It makes us feel grown, responsible, in charge of our lives. It gives us a sense of authorship, like we're sitting in the driver's seat, until psychology quietly enters the room and starts asking questions that don't have comforting answers. And yes, even psychologists argue about this, which is impressive, considering they still can't fully agree on what a thought actually is, where it begins, or who truly owns it. From childhood, we're taught a very comforting story about the human mind, that humans are rational thinkers, that emotions help us make better decisions, that awareness gives us control, that if you just think clearly enough, you'll always choose what's best for you. It sounds mature, responsible, safe. It sounds like something an adult would believe. But it's also the version of the story that helps people sleep at night. It's not the version that explains behavior. Because your brain does not wait for logic. It predicts first, it reacts first. It moves first, and only afterward does it invite you in to explain what just happened, as if you were consulted the whole time. Most of your behavior is automatic, not because you're careless, not because you're weak, but because your brain evolved to prioritize speed over accuracy. Long before logic mattered, survival did. Long before planning mattered, reaction did. So your brain learned to scan for danger, reduce uncertainty, and choose what feels familiar. And familiarity feels safe, even when it keeps you stuck. You don't consciously choose most of your actions. Your brain chooses them automatically, then hands you a clean explanation so you can feel involved. It's like your brain steals the car, drives wherever it wants, ignores the map, crashes into a wall, and then calmly turns to you and asks, "So, why did that route make sense?" This is where people usually feel uncomfortable, because this has nothing to do with intelligence. Highly intelligent people aren't immune. In many cases, they're actually better at rationalizing. They don't make fewer emotional decisions, they just explain them more convincingly, which means this isn't about other people, this is about you. Think about how often you tell yourself things like, "I'll start tomorrow," "I'm just tired today," "This isn't the right time," "I need to feel more motivated first," "I'll do it when things calm down." These thoughts don't feel like lies. They feel reasonable, responsible, logical. They feel like patience and self-awareness. But what's really happening is your brain negotiating with discomfort. Your brain isn't asking, "Is this good for me?" It's asking, "Can we avoid feeling uneasy right now?" And avoidance feels intelligent when your brain frames it as preparation, timing, planning, or even self-care. Consider how often you avoid a difficult conversation. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, but the truth is, your brain is avoiding uncertainty. It's avoiding the possibility of rejection, conflict, or emotional exposure. The delay feels harmless, the relief feels real, and the habit quietly forms without you noticing. This is the pattern most people never consciously see. Something triggers you, a task, a message, a responsibility, a choice, a feeling you don't know how to handle. Your brain senses uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like risk. So it looks for the fastest way back to emotional safety. You hesitate, you distract yourself, you scroll, you delay. Then comes the justification, not because it was the best choice, but because unresolved tension feels worse than staying the same. Fear turns into avoidance. Avoidance turns into comfort. Comfort turns into habit. And habits slowly become identity. This is how people stay stuck without ever feeling like they chose it. This is how years pass quietly. This is how behavior repeats itself until it starts to feel like personality, not because change was impossible, but because familiarity kept winning every small decision. Some psychologists argue that many personality traits are simply long-term coping mechanisms. Being overly independent, being emotionally distant, being overly agreeable, being avoidant, being hyper-logical. Each of these started as protection. Each stayed because it worked at least once. And the brain never forgot that. Once you hear that, your past starts to look very different. Not like a list of failures, but like a system that learned how to survive. A system that kept choosing what reduced discomfort fastest, not what led to growth. This is usually the moment people feel exposed. Not judged, exposed. They weren't lazy. They weren't broken. They weren't lacking discipline. They were predictable. Their behavior wasn't random. Their reactions weren't accidents. They were patterns repeating themselves quietly. And once you see patterns, you can't unsee them. This is when awareness starts to hurt more than ignorance, because you can no longer tell yourself it was bad luck, bad timing, or bad circumstances. You see the loop clearly. If self-awareness came with a warning label, this would be the part written in small print, the part nobody reads until they're already inside the cycle. But here's what almost nobody talks about. These patterns don't disappear with age. They don't magically resolve when life becomes more stable. They follow you into adulthood, into relationships, into habits, into the way you talk to yourself when no one else is listening. Your comfort zone didn't come from nowhere. Your relationship dynamics weren't random. Your emotional reactions weren't just how you are. They were protection strategies your brain learned to keep you emotionally safe. And the most unsettling part is that this mechanism is influencing your decisions right now. Even as you listen to this, your brain is constantly asking one question. Does this feel safe? Not. Is this true? Not. Is this healthy? Not. Will this help me long term? Just safe. That's why people defend habits they already know are hurting them. That's why change feels threatening even when it's positive. That's why people leave painful situations only to recreate them somewhere else. Your brain doesn't care about growth. It cares about predictability, and predictability feels like survival. This explains why motivation fades, why self-help feels powerful at first and useless later, why insight doesn't automatically lead to action. Because your brain isn't optimized for happiness, it's optimized for survival in an environment that no longer exists. When you try to change, your brain doesn't see improvement. It sees risk, loss of identity, loss of familiarity, loss of control. So it resists quietly, logically, convincingly. Here's the illusion most people live under. If I understand it, I control it. But awareness doesn't override wiring, repetition does. That's why people know what to do and still don't do it. Knowing isn't the problem. Your brain already knows. It just doesn't agree with you. Which is darkly ironic, because we spend years blaming ourselves for not having enough discipline, willpower, or motivation, when the real issue is that we're negotiating with a system that learned its rules decades ago. Your brain isn't evil, but it isn't loyal either. It's efficient. It does what works, not what's noble. Once you truly see this, behavior stops feeling mysterious, people stop feeling confusing, and your past stops looking like a series of mistakes and starts looking like a pattern. Not excuses, explanations. And explanations are dangerous because they remove denial. Psychology isn't about fixing people, it's about understanding patterns. Your brain isn't your enemy, but it's not your friend either. Awareness doesn't change behavior, repetition does. And once you understand how much your brain has been quietly steering your life, you start to realize something unsettling. You were never broken. You were human. And your brain has been doing its job far better than you ever realized.